Hello, friends. It's Hannah again with the American School for Women with Water for Ishmael. I want to share with you the next story from God's Word. As always, it's your choice to listen. I hope that you do because today, especially, I love all the stories, but today the story is about an African man. And I so miss all my friends, my students from Sudan and from Egypt and from all these different countries in Africa. And every time I'm repeating this story and telling it to my daughter, I'm thinking about you and just my heart, it misses you so much. um, so let's get started. I wanted to explain too. The last time I told this story last year, I decided to use some of my daughter's toys, which is why you see some different little characters here, just to help us have a visual as we're listening to the story. So that's why we have all of these things here, why it looks a little different this time. Okay, so before Jesus went up to where God is, he promised his followers that they would receive power to go in all the world and tell everyone the good news about Jesus. And so the people who believed in Jesus, they did this. They went out and they told everyone they met the good news about Jesus. And one of these followers of Jesus was a man named Philip. This is our Philip today. Um, and this is where our story starts for this week. So this is a story from God's Word. Now, a messenger from God came to Philip while he was in Jerusalem and told him, I want you to go on the road south that leaves Jerusalem. So Philip did that. He went on the road. And there he met a man from Africa who was traveling home to his country. Now, this is our African man. He was an important man in his country. He took care of all the money for his country. And he was returning home, traveling in a carriage. Of course, this is not a carriage, but this is my idea. Traveling in a carriage. And while he was traveling, he was reading from God's Word, from the book of the spokesman Isaiah. And Philip heard God's Spirit tell him, go next to the carriage. So Philip ran next to the carriage, and he listened as the man from Africa read out loud from God's Word. And Philip asked him, do you understand what you are reading? And the African man said, how can I if I have no one to explain it to me? And so he begged Philip, please come in my carriage, come and sit next to me and talk with me for a while. So Philip sat next to him and they continued traveling along and reading. And this is what the African man was reading in God's Word. He was like a sheep who is taken to be killed. And just like a sheep in front of the people who will kill him is silence, he also did not open his mouth. And the man from Africa asked Philip, is the spokesman talking about himself or is he talking about someone else? And so, starting with this story from God's Word, Philip told the African man all the story of the good news about Jesus. And as they continued traveling along, the African man saw some water beside the road. And he said, "Look, here is some water. Why can't I be baptized?" And if you remember, baptize means it's a ceremonial washing to show that you turn away from your sin and you're turning to God. So the African man said, "Why can't I be baptized? Can I?" And Philip said, "Of course, as long as you truly believe." And the African man said, "I believe that Jesus is the Son of God." So he had them stop the carriage, and they both got out and they went down into the water. And Philip baptized the African man. And as they were coming out of the water, God's Spirit took Philip to another city. Maybe you remember this from last year. Took him to another city. And so the African man continued on his journey home, praising God. And this is the story from God's Word. So you know that we always ask 5 questions after we hear God's Word, and we ask God to help us understand His Word. So I have my daughter next to me, Shana. Do you want to listen to the questions and answer? Come on over, come sit by me. Quickly, please. And you'll see we're twins today. We have our same dresses on. Okay, so Shana listened to the whole story, and also when I was practicing to make sure I was correct. So Shana, what do you like about this story? You like the water? Why do you like the water? Do you remember why? Yeah. Why do we baptize? What does that mean? Do you remember what he said when he came, before he was baptized? He said, "I believe that Jesus is the Son of God." Cool. Anything surprise you about this story? Do you remember earlier when Mommy was preparing and she said, God's Spirit took Philip to another city? You remember you said, how? Is there anything you didn't like about this story? No, that's okay. What do you learn about God from this story? They're hard questions. That's why when we talk together, we take time and we think, because these are not easy questions, they're hard. We also ask, what do you learn about people? That's okay. I think last year someone said something about when you travel, that sometimes God will speak to you or teach you something when you travel. And then the last question is, how does this story change our life? Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy getting English. I hope you enjoy getting practice with English listening, and in such a beautiful way, because it's with God's Word. Well, we love you and we miss you. Stay safe, and God willing, we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
High five. Give me high five.
High five.